Hi, I'm Christy McDonald, and thanks so much for joining me for Great Lakes Now. I'm here at Long's Family Farm, Orchard, and Cider Mill, and as you can see, the apple trees are in full bloom. This fall, folks will come from miles around for the U-Pick season, as well as to enjoy that tasty apple cider. And it really is amazing to realize that in just a few months' time, all of these blossoms will be a delicious snack. You know, never before have we been so invested in where our food comes from and how it's grown. And here in the Great Lakes region, there's special focus on farming and how it affects our freshwater. So on this episode of Great Lakes Now, we're going to take a look at the Great Lakes and our food supply. And it is something that all farmers have to keep in mind.
My name is Mike Whirling. I'm a fifth-generation farmer in Decatur, Indiana, the northeast corner of the state of Indiana. This farm was settled by my great-great-grandfather in 1847. Producing is what everybody wants to do. You want to be productive. You want to do something. I do everything myself. I do the maintenance of both the machinery and the facilities, the buildings. Everything you see is maintained and done by me or someone from my family. I don't have to follow a time clock. I work when work is needed. What I do is what gets done, and I have to do it, to make a living. But it's on my schedule. So it's a freedom and it's a great lifestyle. I believe that it is the best job that I can be doing. I can imagine that my grandparents, great-grandparents, all enjoyed it the same way. Everything in this watershed goes up to Lake Erie, so we are all connected. Everything we do affects someone else. We've learned a lot in the last 20 years now. We've increased the knowledge on keeping the soil, keeping the nutrients on our land. I believe that farmers all should conserve soil to do the best they can. There's always something we can do better. There's always something I can do better. So we have to keep looking forward to improve. The better we can do individually, the better we are for everything.
There are a lot of farmers like Mike out there. They want to farm sustainably to make sure that we have a healthy Great Lakes water supply for generations to come. But it's not easy. There's a delicate balancing act between running a successful farm and protecting the surrounding environment. A lot of focus is put on the fertilizer that farmers use. It can get on the crops and then run off into our fresh water supply and cause something called algal blooms. We've seen a lot of those in Lake Erie.
I saw the algae and it was really kind of a neon green. I was surprised at how neon it looked. It is very distinct once you see an algae bloom, and you know you don't want to touch it.
You better not touch it. That's an HAB, a harmful algal bloom. It could make you sick and kill your dog if you are both unlucky enough to fall in. Researchers at Ohio's Heidelberg University have been studying water quality for 4 decades. The team is gathering water samples on streams that feed into the Maumee River, which flows into Lake Erie.
Automatic samplers are set up to take samples 3 times a day, every 8 hours for an entire week. And inside that station is a refrigerated sampler, and every Monday we come out here and exchange the bases.
In the 1960s, pollution and algal blooms almost killed Lake Erie. After that, phosphates were banned in laundry detergent. Phosphorus was reduced, and things got better. But in recent years, algal blooms have been making a comeback, and Heidelberg researchers think they've found out why. It's called dissolved phosphorus. It's said dissolved phosphorus is like a power bar for the toxic algae.
If you were to ask 5 years ago, dissolved phosphorus, everybody would scratch their head and go, what's that?
And they now feel that that's really the component, one of the main components in contributing to the algal blooms. We like to think that we know everything that's going on out here, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer term of sampling and database and data analysis to really start to see trends.
Though there are several sources of dissolved phosphorus in Lake Erie, scientists believe most of the problem comes from farm fertilizer.
The other ones all contribute, but the one that contributes the most or puts in the largest portion of the load is agricultural runoff. And so we're trying to get farmers to not apply more than they need and modify the way that they apply the fertilizer. And we think that pretty much those two things together will solve the problem.
This year, the Ohio Farm Bureau began promoting ways to better apply fertilizer using the right amount at the right time.
This farm has been in the family since 1890.
The Myers Farm is near Toledo, less than a mile from Lake Erie.
My great-grandfather is the one that first started this. My son's the 5th generation.
Bill Myers says he's been applying fertilizer the way the Farm Bureau recommends for years. It's just common sense, really. It bothers him that farmers are so often blamed for the algal blooms.
The people that will listen to these interviews or read the articles in the paper, the point they don't understand is there isn't some great big pile of phosphorus someplace that the government gives us for free that they say, hey, use all you want. It's expensive. It costs hundreds of dollars an acre to purchase and apply.
Best agricultural practices that reduce harmful runoff can be expensive. That's why programs like this one, that help farmers grow cover crops in the fall, are so important. Brett Margraf has been using cover crops for years. Still, this is not a common sight in northwest Ohio, at least not yet. The radishes aren't for eating.
Kind of small.
They're for holding soil, water, and nutrients in place over the winter so they don't get into the lake.
In theory, in the upcoming years, we should see a reduction in what we use for nutrients to grow the same quantity of crop.
Next spring, corn and soybeans will be grown here. Margraf sees it as a small step forward to improve the health of Lake Erie and maybe help his bottom line. And it works for conservationists who are looking at the bigger picture in western Lake Erie.
The complexity of the system, the fact that it is a whole system, requires coordination and cooperation. You know, there's a lot to do at the farm level, but at the end of the day, the impact on the sustainability of the system comes from a large number of farmers and a large number of constituencies working together to achieve sustainability.
The problems that we've seen in the Great Lakes due to fertilizer runoff have inspired some pretty interesting solutions. At Michigan State University, they're working on a research project involving drones that would monitor farm conditions.
Well, it used to be in agriculture, you know, it was all hands-on. You drove the tractors, you manually changed things, but now computers have taken a lot of the tedious stuff out.
Jeff Sandburn is a corn, wheat, and soybean farmer in Portland, Michigan, and his job has changed a lot over the years as innovation in agricultural technology has increased at a breakneck pace. And while not all farmers are eager to adopt this new technology, Jeff is.
Farming still is farming. We want to do the best we can with every year we get to farm, and most farmers, you know, I'm going to get maybe 50 tries at this, 50 years of farming. And I only get 50 times to get it right. So I want to keep doing a better job every year and improving what I'm doing.
But it's not just personal pride motivating Jeff. The stakes are much higher when it comes to farming.
We only have so much land that can grow crops, productive crops. And this planet continues to have more people on it. So we have to do a better job on the land we have and get more out of the resources we put in, get higher yields to feed more people.
Unfortunately, pressure to increase food production can have a negative impact on the environment. Over-fertilization and imprecise irrigation have created insecurities in our Great Lakes water supply, including harmful algal blooms.
I think farmers all want to
do the best of the environment. They depend on the environment. Their field is part of the environment. The bottom line for most farmers, though, is what does it cost? You want to produce the most corn, soybeans, potatoes you can for the least cost, and still maintain the productivity of your soil.
But what if there was a way to increase crop yield and farmers' profitability while decreasing over-fertilization and water waste? At Michigan State University, a team of researchers is piloting a project that will do just that.
The drone, we call it the giant mozzie because it's like mozzie is a nickname for mosquitoes in Australia. You know, I used to work in Australia. It's very, it sounds like a mosquito, but I use it to fly over farmers' field and detect changes in plant performances.
Bruno Basso, an Italian native, has relocated to America's heartland to pilot a new research project using unmanned aerial vehicles, otherwise known as drones.
When a drone flies like this specific type flies over a field, it detects information about reflectance of light from the plant. So you are able to get an information for a very large area at a fine scale.
Commercial drones have been used by farmers for years to provide a bird's eye view of their crops, and it's estimated that 90% of all drone use by the year 2025 will be in agriculture. But Bruno's drone does much more than take pretty pictures from above. This drone is able to survey large sections of land down to the millimeter, generating detailed maps which lend farmers valuable insight into their fields.
Everything that I do in a field costs me money, whether it's the seed I buy, the fertilizer I use, the chemicals that are applied. If I can get the most efficient use out of that resource, whether it's seed, fertilizer, which fertilizer is very energy intensive, I want to grow the most crop I can out of that given unit of fertilizer.
But increasing the amount of fertilizer does not necessarily mean a farmer will see an increase in the amount of crops he is able to produce. And for Bruno, a uniform application of fertilizer is simply a waste.
So the uniform application that normally a farmer does, by definition, he overestimates this input in one area and he underestimates inputs in the other area. And so that's the important. One size fits all is not the case in agriculture because there is a lot of variability. So in the end, what does the drone do? Tells us about that variability.
Understanding field variability is one part of the puzzle, but for all that information to be useful, a farmer has to know what practical measures to take. That's why Bruno is developing easy-to-use software that not only breaks the information down, it actually creates a predictive model that allows a farmer to digitally test out a change in their farming practices without any risk to their yield.
You can simulate your field, the farmer's field, for the last 20 years of weather that has occurred, that is available, and you compare two nitrogen treatments, 100 kilograms versus 200 kilograms or more, and you basically, based on the model, which is highly reliable, you basically learn that 80% of the time 100 kilograms may give you the same response as 200 kilograms, or maybe 100% of the time. So if you get that kind of confidence, why use it 200?
By not using excess fertilizers, we have less runoff, and the runoff goes into the lakes and streams, and then we have algal blooms, which cause eutrophication, and you kill fish. You also, by having excess fertilizer, the bacteria in the soil turn these fertilizers into greenhouse gases. So by using the right amount of fertilizer, so you can maximize plant growth, but not too much so you get runoff, you can save the environment and produce healthy and efficient crops.
The implications of Bruno's research are clear. Smart advancements in agricultural technology could be the key to increasing farmers' profitability, decreasing the environmental impact, and increasing food production to support an ever-growing global population. And farmers like Jeff, they're ready to take flight.
We could be seeing a lot more programs like that one at Michigan State University thanks to more money for research. But where would that money come from? I invited Senator Debbie Stabenow from Michigan, who helped shape the Farm Bill, to talk about its impact on agriculture across the country and especially right here in the Great Lakes region. Let's talk about agriculture as a whole that we know is so important across the country. How is it different here in the Great Lakes Basin?
I have had to really stress this point. People look at me coming in when I was chairing the committee and said, what's somebody from a car state doing chairing the agriculture committee? So wait. Yes, we are proud of our cars. We are proud of manufacturing, but we not only make things, we grow things. And so we have more diversity of crops, different kinds of things that we grow than any other state but California. People now know that. And it is important to us that the Farm Bill reflect all kinds of things. That's what I think I've brought to this. It's not just traditional corn, wheat, soybeans, which are all very important, traditional grains. It's everything. It's horticulture, it's forestry, it's floriculture, it's fruits and vegetables, it's local foods, farmers markets. Making sure fresh fruits and vegetables are more available. So we do all of that in this Farm Bill.
What's the delicate balancing act between running a successful farm, and you have farmers all over the country and around the basin who are trying to do that, but with also protecting the environment around them?
Well, our farmers, frankly, are our best environmentalists. They want to make sure the land is protected and the water and the air. They're stewards of the land. So I think it's a coming together. It's how you do it. It's the partnerships that we do through the Farm Bill, where we say, if you deal with your manure operation and we stop the runoff into the local stream, the USDA will come in and partner with the costs on that. We know it costs money to do that. We know it's in their interest, but it's also in all of our interests to make sure that the land is protected, and so we'll partner on the cost end. It helps create tools for farmers to manage their operations, and it helps all of us protect our land and water.
I want to talk a little bit about our food supply. Never before have we been so, I think, engaged in where our food comes from, how it's grown, and how it gets from farm to table. Talk to me a little bit about how the Farm Bill addresses organics and farmers markets, and what kinds of programs could we be seeing soon?
Well, this is an area that I'm very, very pleased about, where we really are taking the next step in terms of addressing local food systems and the ability to connect the local school with the farm, with the restaurant, with the hospital. We have wonderful programs going on in Michigan where we're connecting young people from a health standpoint, nutrition standpoint, school standpoint, food standpoint, and we expand on that. We have done more for organics than ever before in this bill to help with research, to help be able to get folks started in organic farming. We do what's called local food systems, food hubs, where farmers can come together and get funding to put together distribution systems. So let's say you have a restaurant or a hospital and they say, you know, I'd like to get local tomatoes and celery and lettuce and so on, but I don't have time to go to 20 different farmers and figure this out. You can go online to the local food hub. You can check off what you want in each category. The food hub will then package it and put it together and deliver it. So it's a way to buy locally, but yet have a way to do it that meets the farmers' needs and the community's needs. And of course, farmers markets are growing in every single community, and that's very exciting.
Another thing that's growing, it seems like, is urban farming as well, as we're seeing it happen in cities all around the Great Lakes Basin. What does the Farm Bill do for urban farming?
Well, we expand on urban farming as well. And in fact, after being all over the country, I found that we actually have the experts in Michigan. In fact, our Detroit urban farmers are the experts. They're viewed as the experts around the country.
Really?
They really are. And so that's a point of pride. And we're seeing it in all of our cities now, where we are expanding the ability to have local gardens, whether it's in schools or neighborhoods or urban farming. And then the big thing, I think, is how do we leverage that to create more jobs? So for instance, in Detroit, with Eastern Market, which is doing a phenomenal job, by the way, of bringing together our farmers and the people in the city and urban farming, there's a kitchen that's going to be opened up that will allow people, a kitchen incubator, like a business incubator, where you can share space. And if you want to make a food product that can get licensed and be sold in a store, you would be able to use that space for a few weeks or be able to rent the space. Why is that important? Because you have to have a commercial kitchen to get licensed, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars to do a commercial kitchen. People can't do that, but you could go rent one for a couple of weeks or for a month and make that salsa, make that jam, do it, put together that recipe, and then sell it. So what I'm looking to do is leverage agricultural strength, more access to healthy foods in urban areas, but then leverage it to the next step, which is people going into small businesses. I mean, there's a lot of things that we are doing that we're looking forward to implementing.
The work is never done.
Never done.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining me. I appreciate it. The Farm Bill really addresses all of the emerging ways that we're getting fresh food to our table, like farmers markets and urban farming. Here's a look at an urban farming program in Milwaukee that has really become an example for the entire country.
Fresh, local, nutritious. Do these words describe your last meal? Urban farms are popping up across the country to supply a growing demand for this type of food. Nutrient-rich produce that hasn't been shipped long distances, that empowers small businesses and local economies. Some argue that you can't feed a growing population in this way, but try and tell that to Will Allen, a former NBA star turned urban farming pioneer.
When I started, I bought this place to sell my farm produce from my farm. And along a continuum, by working with some youth in the community, I got sucked into doing this nonprofit model that I was kind of challenged because everybody said, well, you can't grow enough food to feed people. Well, we feed 10,000 people from this facility alone.
After his basketball career, Will founded Growing Power, a nonprofit organization on the north side of Milwaukee. Growing Power's main facility is just one of many farms, each full of innovative systems for growing food that have educated and inspired urban farmers around the world.
We have a lot of different ag of the future in terms of growing very intensively, being able to grow fish and plants in the same system, being able to grow food year-round, using renewable energy, growing our own soil, and training hundreds and even thousands of people.
Space is at a premium in an urban setting, so creativity and innovation are key to Growing Power's ability to maximize the use of their land and produce everything from sprouts to tilapia on the same square foot of ground.
We don't have a lot of room to spread out, but we do have room to spread up. So in our aquaponics, for example, our fish are sunk into the ground. They don't need the sunlight. And by being sunk, that water is actually going to stay much cooler. On top of that, we have our vegetables growing near the sun where they need to be. So we can really play to the advantages and say, well, what's good about that? It's not a problem, it's a solution.
Oh, this is just like a farm. No, it's not just a farm. It's an opportunity. It just teaches kids that it's more to food than what you get in the store. It's where it comes from and how it gets to your plate.
For Growing Power, it's not just about the food. A youth corps program gives young people like Raymond opportunities to build valuable life skills for their future.
Well, because of Growing Power today, I have a job, and also teaches me skills like communication, and also teaches me responsibility. Like you have to take criticism so you can learn from your mistakes.
Will Allen's impact on Milwaukee doesn't end with inspiring kids like Raymond. It ripples throughout the community, from opening a cafe and market in Milwaukee's largest food desert to helping local schools prosper. At Highland Community School, Growing Power is bringing the hands-on approach of farming into the curriculum.
The smaller children might learn about just plopping a seed in and texture of the soil and those fine motor skills, whereas our 8th graders may be doing chemical equations and testing water in the aquaponic systems.
It's a great way to study science. It's a great lab for experimentation, and it has an actual product, which is really meaningful to our students to see that, oh, my work produced this.
For us, one of the reasons why we're so excited to do it is that we can really improve the nutrition and what we offer our children here. So they're not coming in thinking about that their tummy is hurting because they're hungry or they haven't had a good meal, but that they don't have to worry about that, and that we're also giving them the skills to succeed.
From urban farm to local schools, Will Allen's belief in the importance of good nutrition and fresh produce has inspired a local revolution, planting the seeds for a global movement. But innovation comes easily when your work is also your passion.
Will always says, just start something. And I think there's truth in that. You don't have to go out and do everything the way we do it. In fact, you have to figure out what works in your community, what works for you, because if it's hard for you to do it and it's not fun, then it's not sustainable. You have to get a lot of joy out of it for it to be really something you want to do every day.
This is part of the future of our food system, and it gives people a choice. Do you want to buy food that's shipped in from 1,500 miles away, which is 99% of the food in our marketplace in most major cities, or do you want to eat food that's local? Well, 86% of people last poll said they would rather eat locally grown food. So we're reacting to that. We're really quantifying whether this becomes an economic model. And I think we've proven that.
Congratulations to Will and all the great work that they are doing there in Milwaukee. We can't wait to hear more about urban farming programs all around the Great Lakes Basin. And that is going to do it for Great Lakes Now. Thanks so much for joining us as we took a look at the delicate balance between our food supply and our freshwater system. We hope we've inspired you to learn more today. So just head to greatlakesnow.org for more on this program and all things Great Lakes. For everyone at Detroit Public Television, I'm Christy McDonald from Long's Family Farm. Can't wait for apple season. We'll see you next time.